With recent news that Rivian will adopt Tesla's charging infrastructure known as NACS going forward, every major American car company will produce vehicles with the North American charging standards starting within the next few years. That's huge news as it unifies a fractured industry that has struggled to convince traditional car owners to convert to the new platform. But before we get deeper into this, I just want to say this. Obviously, this video is not sponsored by Tesla. This is strictly my opinion as a 2 EV car owner. And I just wanted to discuss this matter with people who are looking to buy an electric vehicle and might not be as in tune with what's going on in the market right now. So I'm Alex from Sypnotix. Let's jump into this subject. With one last thing for haters to check off on their checklist, I think it's a huge needle mover that Ford, GM, and now Rivian have all unified with Tesla to be able to share a charging infrastructure and network across the country. Not only will Mach-E's and R1Ts be able to use non-Magic Dock superchargers, many EV charging companies like ChargePoint and Blink have already committed their intention to providing NACS to their stations. That means Teslas will be able to use EVgo stations or charge points without using an adapter. All in all, this is a major win for American consumers. Now, take away the technical specs and charging speeds and just look at it from a logistical standpoint. The sheer number of superchargers and the support that Tesla provides their network is just astounding. Sure, stations do go down occasionally. That happens to all types of electronics in the world. But the maintenance and reliability Tesla provides its networks is miles ahead of anybody else. It's the best charging infrastructure bar none. With NACS on other cars, this opens up the market to buyers that never would have considered anything other than a Tesla. Now, what should you do if you're in the market for an EV right now, though? It's going to take a couple of years before these car makers can actually fully integrate NACS into their models. Buying a Ford or Rivian as they are now will immediately supply you with an outdated charging port in the United States. Sure, Rivian says these cars will still have access to the supercharging network thanks to an adapter that the company will produce for you to purchase, but the 2025 R1T and the 2025 R1S are the true products of the future going forward for that company. As there already are set dates for this shift, this leaves buyers interested in a Rivian, GM, or Ford left hanging in a really peculiar situation knowing that the model of the car that they purchase now will have an outdated port right off the factory. To put it in other technological terms, it's like buying a smartphone with a micro USB charging port. Sure, you can buy a micro USB to USB-C dongle right now, but nobody likes having adapters when you can have the actual port promised. That's the analogy, but just about like 40 times on a bigger monetary scale. Another headache for buyers seems to be this, I guess you can say, political implications that the shift to NACS could be a result of. It's not surprising for me to hear that all of the major American manufacturers have unified under NACS. The Biden administration and Elon Musk have been very active in discussions regarding this bipartisan infrastructure law over the past year. This administration has made a huge push to incentivize a deterrence on imported goods. While the USA has good standing in the trade market with most European and Asian countries, China is a clear example of where politics interfering with consumer capitalism matters. No matter how enticing a product made in China is, Chinese EV makers have not broken through the American market without first acquiring European assets like, say, Geely has with Volvo and Polestar. It's almost impossible. With strained Chinese relations, Europe and the US markets have struggled to kind of like determine the right middle ground between Chinese manufacturing and Western competition. The EV tax refund debate last year completely centered around the percentage of a vehicle's American production heritage. All eyes will now shift on Hyundai and whether they will pivot from their current CCS infrastructure and join Tesla and their way of life. Hyundai and Kia have been in the forefront of the current electric vehicle push, with terrific forward-thinking designs and philosophies. If the European and Asian markets continue forward with their current CCS model and don't provide an NACS variant of their cars for the American markets, this scenario would test buyers and their loyalty based on an oddly geographical divide in order to make their decision. For example, my baby boomer dad grew up with one brand that epitomized I guess you could say, a checkpoint that would illustrate the success of all of his hard work. That car he strived so hard for was a Mercedes-Benz. Now in his senior citizen years and decades brewing with his own kind of perceptions, driving many different brands like Volvo, Honda, and BMW, his staunch belief is that Mercedes-Benzes are the best cars to drive and sit in. He's on his 4th or 5th Mercedes, and although he has yet to pull the trigger on an electric vehicle, he's constantly flirted with another Benz. This time around, though, it won't be one with an engine, but just one with an electric motor. Lita's father, on the other hand, is a lifelong Japanese car owner. While he worked on Volvos for a living as a career, he's adamant that Japanese cars are the most reliable and well-built vehicles in the world. He's like my dad, he's also a result of his time period and the general perceptions that a brand has built up with the public. Toyota and Lexuses are the only cars he trusts to drive. Neither of them are on board with Tesla. Both of these highly decorated drivers and experienced drivers have been interested in purchasing electrical vehicles, seeing as they have children who work in the industry and also drive them. However, their personal concerns about the viability of the platform has alienated them from making the jump. Charging outside the home has always been the sticking point for many people who have never experienced daily life with an electric car. It's totally fine. It's the same story here with our parents. If they were to buy an EV, it would be with the brands that they trust. In this case, there isn't a huge incentive for German or Japanese brands to move away from CCS infrastructures from their homelands to cater towards Tesla's system. I don't have all the information in regards to what Biden's negotiations are, obviously, with the various automobile industry leaders, but from everything the White House and the American media has published, the American market doesn't seem to be incentivizing foreign-made products too much in this current age. How would I then recommend my dad or Lita's dad to jump all in on a Mercedes EQS or a Lexus RZ as their first EV when I know their biggest fears would actually play out? Lita and I have a Model 3 and a Polestar 2. It is a nightmare every time we go and drive by an electrified America. On the other hand, there are so many superchargers popping up every month that I haven't even come across wait times here in Orange County, California, which would have been insane to imagine even a couple years ago. It's come a long way in just 4 years. Even in the comfort of my own garage, the Tesla mobile charger is so much more portable and smoother to insert than the PS2's Type 2 mobile charger. It's not even close. So this leaves the market in an extremely awkward place. The next few months will really be a pivotal point in shaping the automobile industry for decades to come. Will European and Asian manufacturers fall in line with what seems to be a Biden-led American alliance or a coalition and provide NACS variants of their vehicles for Americans? If they don't, then will American buyers like us, even with their foreign biases, pivot to buying American cars simply because they have the superior infrastructure? This American transition to NACS is a fascinating case study of political lobbying, capitalistic advancement transforming into a monopoly, and most importantly, consumer mindsets. Like it or not, a lot of us are going to have to make some interesting decisions in the next 5 to 10 years regarding our automobiles. If you live in California like me or a state kind of like this, your last new gas car purchase will have to happen before 2035. Then it's all electric by law. That's going to sneak up on us a lot quicker than it looks on paper. It's no longer just a decision about color, how big your car should be, and how many miles it gets. As an all-electric car household that contains both CCS and NACS compatible vehicles, I personally would not purchase an EV that isn't a Tesla right now, especially if it's going to be your first EV. In 2025, the floodgates open and it'll be like a candy shop with beautiful options in the US. They just have to be American branded candy.
So the other day, I was on a Zoom call at work, and I just dropped everything I was saying, and I told them, subscribe.